Hello and welcome to WriteCast Between the Pages with me, your co-host, Florian.
I'm Melissa, your other co-host.
And today we're being joined by two guests, which is really exciting because this is the first time on WriteCast, our podcast, that we've had two guests. So we're being joined by Perdita and Honor Cargill, who are co-authors. They write together, and I'll introduce them first. So we've got two guests to introduce. So Honor began writing when she was about 16, co-authoring the funny teen series Waiting for Callback with her mum, Perdita. Honor read classical archaeology and ancient history at Oxford and studied masters in history of art. She enjoys researching party scenes and also writes non-fiction history. And Perdita Cargill spent years working as a commercial barrister before she finally turned to writing. Bizarrely, for a pessimistic Scot, she loves to write funny books. She is the co-author with Honor Cargill of Waiting for Callback series and lives in London. And they've also got a recent novel, Diary of an Accidental Witch, the first in a middle grade series described as a fresh take on the witch school genre, which I can confirm is an excellent book. It is definitely a fresh... Yeah, it's really good. And it is definitely a fresh take on the witch school genre. I really liked it. So, yeah, it's really good. We need more witch books, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, thank you for having us. Lovely to be invited. Thank you.
No, it was really good. And it's great. As I said, really great to have two people on as well, especially mother and daughter writing team, which is quite unusual, which is really cool.
Yeah, all my friends thought it was bizarre. They thought I was mad.
Yeah, that must have been a weird thing to sort of start writing with. Well, I guess that might be a good first place to start with, because I guess everyone is going to be curious about that. And like you said, like you know, your friends found it weird, but I find it interesting. So yeah, do you guys want to like tell us a bit about writing together, or why you started writing together as well?
Okay, so I think in terms of writing together, we'll talk a bit about our process, I think, later on, but like it works more easily than people expect. Yeah. And I think our writing relationship is actually quite separate from our mother-daughter relationship. And I think it's also developed quite a lot. Obviously, we started when I was like 16. I'm 23 now, and I think that like that working relationship obviously changed quite a lot over that time period. So I think we've made it work, but it sort of started kind of accidentally in a way. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think that it's weirdly quite healthy in that it's been something that we've done together that hasn't been about family, or you know, about ourselves, or you know, me having a go at Honor and stuff. It's like we've had to sort of work like, you know, two professionals. We've had to do our job, and I think it's actually it's been a good stretch from just the normal relationship between us, and actually a huge amount of fun, because otherwise we wouldn't still be doing it, because you know, if we were we fight about other stuff much more than we fight about books.
Otherwise we wouldn't still be like talking.
Still be writing, we would still be talking, but I suppose we came into writing in very different ways.
Yeah, really different ways.
Because I was one of these people who, like, if you'd asked me when I was 5, what do you want to be when you grow up, I'd have said, I want to be an author, I want to write. I always wanted to do it, but then I was a lawyer, I didn't have time, and it was only after I stopped doing that work at that sort of intensity that I started writing. And I wrote fiction novels about, you know, full 90,000 words, and then our house was burgled.
No, our house wasn't burgled. They literally broke the window and
broke the window and took the computer, and I hadn't backed it up. And
oh no!
That was the end of that, and I think it may have been a blessing in disguise when I think back to that dark, you know, serious, intense first novel. But I probably learned a lot doing it.
A blessing to the wider
world. And then the kids stuff came along, and I sort of got sidetracked into kids, and that was almost accidental.
It was just because we had an idea of a subject that we really wanted to write about. But I certainly, when I was younger, I never thought about being an author. I'm really dyslexic, so I was always like not that great at kind of English when English was like spelling and grammar, sort of in primary school and early secondary school. All my stuff came back covered in red pen.
Red.
Yeah, it was just a sea of red. And so I just never really thought about it. And I think I only started thinking about it when we started working on our first project, which became our first series.
Yeah.
And we just started that because it was something that we thought would be funny. It was a subject.
We were very unserious about it when we all started. We had the idea because of what you were.
I did some acting when I was younger, and you took me to auditions.
Yeah.
I was like 10, and
I was a theatre mom, and I hated it. I hated it with all my being. You know, I'd take her to auditions, and it was all very intense, and it's a lovely world in some ways, but gosh, it's
a lot of the people we met were very eccentric.
They were characters waiting to be written.
I can imagine.
Right. We just started joking about, wouldn't it be fun to write a book about it? And then it was just a whole load of accidental things that meant that we did start writing it. And then you really got into the writing, started producing reams. And before we knew where we were, we'd sort of kicked off. Yeah. And then I put the adult stuff aside. We got into that. Here we are now, basically.
It's all a horrible accident.
It's all a terrible horrible.
But an amazing accident.
World now.
I'm going to have a high-paying job in the city by now.
or the intense adult fiction book could be out in the world as well. So
yeah, the Booker Prize. So it's one of those life accidents, but we do really enjoy it. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't have fun with it. We have a lot of fun with it.
You need to write what you love, I think. And that's so interesting that you say you wrote, Perdita, you wrote a adult novel first, and then you sort of went into this children's world, and you were thinking about Honor doing those acting classes, because obviously that's sort of your more YA teen series. And now you've got this magical middle grade, and I assume Honor's not going to tell us that she was a witch. So that's not where that came from. So where do you get those ideas from as well? And how does that change it up, having these two completely different series, and how do you keep coming up with those ideas after that initial sort of thinking back to your own childhood?
Well, I think when I started secondary school and I realised that my school was a school for witches, and that I was going to produce quite serious magical spells within the next month, I think that really inspired. Really,
of course.
And I went on to it and I realised, no, it was actually Hogwarts.
No, I mean, I think that in some ways the books in terms of style are not that different, because they're both comedic, they're both very voice led, and our teen series was really the lower end of teen. So it was always kind of on that border, which is partly why we really started to get involved, reading other people's middle grade, getting to know, we were quite interested in middle grade. But the idea for doing a witch diary book came from the publishers. Yeah. They were like, what would be fun would be to write a witch diary book. So it's been really collaborative, and we thought, we love diary books.
They kind of pitched it as a sort of worst witch diary format sort of thing, and that was a book that I loved growing up. And also, I think partly because I was dyslexic, like I loved anything that was very like split up text. Like the diary format always worked really well for me. I really enjoyed it. So I think we heard about it and we were like, this would be such a fun project.
Yeah, and then we met them. We knew one of the editors had worked on our teen project before, and we just thought this is going to be great fun, and very genuinely it's just been such a fun collaborative project. And I think that's a big thing, like you're talking to us as sort of two writers that collaborate, but all writers collaborate, of course. All all these projects, especially I suspect in kids fiction, are intensely collaborative. Thank goodness, lots of input. So hats off to them for coming up with that idea, and then
we just we ran with it, had fun with it. Like the team is amazing. We work really well together. We kind of sit down, discuss where we want the characters to go, where we want the plots to go, and it's a really fun process. And because we're so used to collaborating right from the start of a project as well, it's I think been quite a fun kind of way of working, and also like we just love a genre hop in this house.
Yeah.
Like we love it.
Yeah, like Messalina, like Honor's
I'm writing an adult non-fiction biography, which is about as far of like a Roman empress. It is about as far.
It's so scandalous. Any emotional cross promotion at all. It's, you know, it's the other end. But I mean, all things like we're sort of knocking around some ideas on picture books. We'd like to write. You know, I will still kick around some adult fiction ideas.
There's a project that you're thinking about that I'm desperate for you to write,
but I'm writing.
So I really want to read it.
It's not intense and dark. And I think that, you know, like. Some people, it's a very personal thing, but I think it's helped our writing to write across genres and for different age groups.
Yeah,
I really do.
Right. I feel like writers are always like, oh, you should read all the time, and that's definitely true. But I also think that there's a lot to be said just for like writing a lot of words all the time on kind of anything.
Yeah.
Like, even if you like write in something entirely different genre, ditch something after a chapter, I just think like literally just writing works.
It all helps. I mean, even, you know, having to do your essays.
Yeah, 100%.
It all helps. You know, you just exercise it. So, we're big fans of genre hopping. Definitely.
It's impressive because, I mean, Honor, your non-fiction, I've seen it. Well, congratulations on that for a start, because that sounds like a really awesome project. I did Latin at A-level, so I'm a big fan of myth, and so I was like, oh, this looks really good. But yeah, it looks so exciting. So your genre hopping is definitely
it's extreme.
Definitely must be very real for you guys.
Yeah.
It is very extreme. Yeah, it's definitely not a kid-friendly non-fiction.
Region is
has been very
supportive. Darlie Anderson's just been like, you know, as we sort of come up with ideas that are so wide ranging, she doesn't kind of go get back in your lane. She's like, actually, that sounds quite interesting. So we've been lucky with that too. But you know, all these things are so personal. I also completely understand someone that is just like, this is absolutely, my heart lies in this very specific bit, and this is, you know, I don't think one is better than the other. It's just this works for us.
Kind of dilettantes.
Yeah, but it works for us. It's fun. Yeah.
I think that's interesting when you say about the personal journey as well, especially with talking about the collaborative process. And I think so many of us writers, we sit in our bedrooms sort of writing for a long time, and then suddenly all these people are involved, and it's exciting but also a little bit scary. So I think it's so interesting you're talking about that collaborative process and how that came about. And also, I didn't know, Honor, did you say before that you are dyslexic?
Yeah, I am. It's fun.
How has that affected your journey, though? How is that? It's because I know a few people that are writers that are dyslexic, and they certainly feel like it would be something that would be a huge roadblock for them. So it's amazing to hear from a published author that they're dyslexic.
I honestly, I don't think it is a roadblock. I think it was more for me before I started, I assumed that it would be. And I think that that's probably what most dyslexic writers would find. I think that the issues only come essentially at the beginning, when you're like, could I really be a writer? Like you just kind of assume that it's not for you, and then
confidence.
You get to copy edits. Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing about us working together, because
we have different
different strengths.
I mean, I'm okay on copy edits.
Also, on copy edits, like you have a copy editor, you just gotta like really work with them if you're dyslexic. I think in the kind of middle bit, I think it almost, I think anything that sort of, any like neurodivergence, I think makes you look at stories and how we tell stories in a different way. And I think that like everything kind of helps you to, if you channel it right, it can help you to be creative and think creatively.
Yeah, and when you were younger, I mean, most of your reading was done, or a huge amount of it was done on audio books. And I think that does impact, like everything we write is dialogue heavy, voice led.
It's very hard to work out.
There are good bits and there are bad bits. And also, I think, you know, all writers, that point where you're showing your work to someone, and it is scary, but you know, everyone will have some vulnerabilities at that point, you know, whether it's that it's appallingly spelled or that, you know, they're really crap at plot. I say that because I'm crap at plot, so I can say that. But everyone is coming to the table with some bits that they're better at than others. And I think, you know, if you're spelling is actually one of the easier ones to sort out. So I would say to anyone that's dyslexic, you know, don't see it as a roadblock.
But definitely not.
Get into the habit of asking for help, because you're going to have to along this process at numerous points anyway.
Yeah, that's great. It's really interesting to hear about the strengths and weaknesses as well, and how that works together.
Yeah, that is really...
Oh, sorry.
I mean, no, go. It's always an overlap. So, no, it's just really interesting, because I was going to say but you said about sort of your dyslexia is giving a sort of different approach to your writing and your stories. And I just think that's a really lovely takeaway for people who are listening, who are coming from diverse backgrounds, because it's a strength, isn't it? It's not a weakness in any sense. And
I think 100%. I honestly think that, like, anything that makes you look at the world in like a slightly different way, or look at like writing in a slightly different way, will always kind of help your work, because like that you need something that makes your work kind of stand out and give you like an original voice. And I think anything that sort of contributes to that can only be a good thing, really. And I think the other thing is, with, like you were saying, I think that I listen to a lot of audiobooks, I think quite like in terms of dialogue, but I also think quite visually. And I think that that's helpful if we're doing like action scenes and things like that. So I feel like it's a strength at this point. But and definitely when I started out, I would have felt that it was a weakness. And
very interesting for me coming at it, because, you know, I was such a reader, but also having been a lawyer all my life, my problem was more that I tended to sort of, everything was very perfect on the page, but sometimes quite flat on the page. So, you know, everyone has things. I have to throw a bit more chaos into my writing. You have spent a bit more checking your writing.
I also think the other thing is, like, you constantly hear this advice of like, read all the time, read all you can. And like, I totally see where that advice is coming from. And I think it is in general really amazing advice, that it can be quite alienating if you like do find that more difficult. Like, I was, one of the main things about my dyslexia was I was this really slow reader. And so I think I always found that advice like quite difficult. But I think that to the read all you can thing, I definitely keep that advice, but I would also add like, listen to stuff on audiobook, watch every film that you can, listen into people's conversations creepily in cafes. I think that like all of those kind of do the same thing.
Find stories everywhere. And like you used to, you used to read poetry. When you were doing the acting, you used to find reading scripts easier because the text was broken up. So it's like, read a lot, but take a wide view of what reading is.
I think also just like look at how people construct stories differently, and you can do that by books if that's what works for you, but there are other places that you can find that as well.
That's amazing.
And also reading scripts must have given you such a good sort of skill with dialogue, presumably, as well, because that must have been
it was really fun.
That's really
I just liked them because they were quick, because they were kind of I think it's I think again, and it's just another way of like constructing characters and constructing a story. And I think all of that stuff teaches you just a lot.
And definitely it sounds like the takeaway is to always put parts of you into the book. It sounds like everything you've done in your lives, even with you, Honor, of course, I know a few places online may say you're still only a girl of 16, so you've done so much in your life. But it's amazing to hear how much, and those two different, all that life experience going into these books. And obviously there's you, and then there's your mum, and it's two different generations. So it sounds like the takeaway advice we've definitely been hearing about is use your life experience and put that in, even if it is a book about a witch.
Interesting moving to middle grade at the age you were, because you were just beginning to find writing teen.
I think so. I'm 23 now. I think that if we'd continued writing teen, I think it might have been almost uncomfortable for me, because when we started, I was 16. Like I was literally writing about like what I knew, and I think that it would almost be weird for me as a 23-year-old, because I'm like close enough to it that like I could kind of still.
You'd have needed a break. I think starting as a teenager, you know, if you come to writing teen,
I think I would have felt like I was kind of trying to like stay in a teen mindset, which I think would not be necessarily the healthiest thing to do.
You were happy to move age at that point.
I think it's kind of easier when there's a slightly bigger gap to sort of get into that mindset for the purpose for the writing.
Yeah, amazing,
awesome. That's and it's so interesting. And you seem also to get on so well as two people who write together. It's really impressive.
Like the podcast is half an hour.
We can manage half an hour. That's
for half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, you seem very functional for two people, because I think me and Melissa were sort of chatting about this. No offense to our parents or relatives, or, you know, I've got a sister, but if I had to write with anyone who I spent time with in real life, they might not be.
Sorry, a lot of the time we write, we're not together. So, like, I remember reading about, I can't remember the name, but like a really well-known American author who writes with her daughter. I can't remember the name.
And they literally sit at the same computer.
Same desk, different size. And we have never, not even when Honor was 16, we've never...
Especially not when I was 16.
Yeah, we've never done the physical bits of writing in the same place. So we do all our gossiping, we'll work out what to do. We pretty much know where we're going for a few scenes.
Very roughly.
Very roughly. We don't write consistently chronologically. No. We'll sort of pick a scene to get started on. You always favour the chaotic action ones.
Yeah, I can't write emotion.
Can't do sentimentality.
Me too.
And then we always write separately, like completely. Like you might be in Oxford, but we won't be in the same place.
I go out,
right?
And just sit in random cafe,
and then we'll email each other. And then there's then the collaboration really begins, in that we massively overwrite, tear stuff to shreds. Yeah. And then being family is useful, because, I mean, I've had things like notes from Honor on the scene that simply say things like, "This is not funny, I will rewrite." Which only child might be quite problematic.
Yeah, the thing is, because I'm the only child, she can't disinherit me. They're new adults.
I'm a writer. I wouldn't get excited about your inheritance, but you know, we don't work together physically. Like we literally couldn't. Then we would fight. Like we would. I remember we were on a train going up to Newcastle to do a kids lit thing, and we had to write together because we had a deadline. We were sitting next to each other on one of these train things, not even a table, 2 seats, and these things. And we practically dissolved the writing partnership by the time we walked halfway between London and Newcastle. And it was awful. It was not good. We just fought the whole time because we were looking over each other's shoulders and disagreeing. And we don't do that. But I think our process is also, calling it a process sounds so grand. It's a bit, it's a bit less formal than that. But we're not particularly quick, because there's process of this, taking each other's first drafts and then polishing them to the point where it sounds like one voice, which is how we do it. It's not how everyone does, it's how we do it. Actually takes forever.
Yeah, it does. It takes a long time, especially on first books in the series. Like now we're writing the 4th book of the Accidental Witch series, even though the first one's only coming out in September. But I think as you start to get further on in the series, that does become slightly quicker, because you have a series voice that's easier to get into. At the beginning, when you're developing that voice between two of you, it's essentially like we just edit each other's work over and over and over again until it becomes consistent.
What we want is a reader that's reading it not to be aware that there are 2 people getting stuck in. Well, that takes a long time. Like no one would want to see our early drafts and our early bits. Like they send each other bits with square brackets. Saying,
I'll be like conversation about feelings here.
So it's a bit of a messy way we have of doing it, but it works for us. It works.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly collaborative, though, compared to, say, I know Tom and Giovanna Fletcher. I went to see them at an event once, and they're married, and they write 2 distinct characters, so they have 2 voices. So he writes the boy bits and she writes the girl bits, and they have 2 completely different chapters. So that's collaborative what you guys do.
I love books where they have 2 voices.
I think Tom Allen and Lucy Iverson did it too.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I really enjoy them, but ours works for us. I think everyone does it differently, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult when people say advise people on collaboration. I think because everyone finds such their own path through collaborating, it's actually quite hard to do, because it's like, what works for us?
Yeah, it's like every writer has a different process, like that cliche, and then like squared. So it's it is a difficult one. I think it's trial and error.
Yeah,
and kind of our process essentially is trial and error.
Yes,
in terms of the writing, but I think it was also trial and error to get to a point at which that was our process.
Yeah. But and actually, in terms of sort of the way we chat about it first and then do different scenes and then swap them, hasn't really changed from very early on. But you know, obviously, I've got slower, you've got quicker. But yeah, it works. It does work.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think I was going to ask a question about giving advice, but I feel like this entire podcast has been so much advice and amazing stuff about collaborative writing, and it's been so interesting. So I don't know if you want to move on to every guest's favourite part of the entire podcast, isn't it, Florian?
Yeah, this is the true test of your collaboration. Never before has your relationship been tested more.
Proud winners, the end. The end.
Oh no, we're in so much trouble.
Neither of us are doing quizzes, and we told you this in advance. Can't do quizzes, so
I didn't support Cassie and Danny.
Yeah, as context to listeners who won't know this, I promised them that Stuart was going to be one of the hosts, and I said Stuart is quite bad at quizzes. Sorry, Stuart. So Honor and Perdita were like, "Yep, I'm on. We're going to be guests on this podcast." So yeah.
I just asked me a question, and I get completely paralysed. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy the humiliation.
Yeah. Let's call it.
Well, yeah.
Question: you get completely paralysed rather than not hearing the answer. Just have massive performance anxiety. Or with the host, which I would like. So you can pick either of those.
Oh yes,
of course.
That's what it is.
Well, you'll be pleased to know there is a theme for this quiz that might help you guys, but maybe not really, but it's kind of themed to your writing. And it's actually, it took me a long time to research these questions, which shows that you guys are quite unique. And it's about, it's writers that collaborate when they write, or co-writers. So,
so which book?
That's what Melissa. That is so.
That's hilarious.
I am really sorry. There are no which questions. And your own books are not on this quiz question either, so you're going to have to. So Melissa is going to take you on for this.
This will be good. This will be the only 0-0 quiz we've ever had, I have a feeling.
Yeah. So, are you ready, guys? So, you're taking on Melissa. Yeah. To make it fair, because we're like at school, I will ask Melissa to give the first question answer, and then you guys will answer. Don't cheat, don't copy, because obviously if we talk over each other, it's like a mess on this podcast. So we do fair quizzes. So right, the first question, are you guys ready? What is the relationship between the authors of fantasy trilogy Lion Boy, written under the pen name Zizu Korda? So what are the relationships? Okay, we'll go for our guest first.
Go guest first.
Go on. Honor, what? Okay, and Melissa, what do you think?
I thought father and son for some. Yeah, I'm going father and son.
Oh my gosh, our guests get a point. Yeah! Mother and daughter is the right answer. Well done, guys. Amazing. See, you were just obviously just trying to pretend to
absolutely threatening
false pretenses
me.
There. Yeah. So, number 2. In Catherine and Elizabeth Core's fantasy duology set in a fairy tale kingdom where nobles can transform into birds, what is the main character's ancestral bird? So, Aderin is the main character.
Oh, that's tough.
So, Melissa, do you want to
go first
for this
Oh,
one?
gosh, I'm trying to remember now. I'm never good at birds at the pub quiz either. It's always a very common pub quiz. I'll go eagle.
Okay, our guests. Yeah, it is a swan. Well done.
Amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God. We love Catherine and Elizabeth, and we love those books.
I was really hoping, because I met you guys through Catherine Core, and I was really hoping that you'd get this answer right, because I was like, please.
I've been totally hustled here. Flipping. I've been hustled. I was told that this would be an easy win. I also revised witch books.
Yeah, Melissa was also researching witch books, so obviously there was
I also revised witch books because I'm very competitive and I'm very upset right now. So next question.
Okay, next question. I'm not going to say the name of one of these characters because my pronunciation of stuff is really bad. So what are the names of the 2 actors who play the demon and the angel in the TV adaptation of Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman's Good Omens? I don't know how to pronounce the angel's name.
And Michael Sheen and David Tennant? Yeah, let's go for that.
Okay, I won't react. Poker face.
No, they've smashed
and
it.
Melissa?
It's definitely David Tennant, Michael Sheen. Yeah.
Yes, well done. So we get 1 point each. There we go. Well done, guys. I was like, I can't pronounce the names of any of the characters in that, so I'll just move on. So the next one.
Twitter.
So in What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli, see, pronunciation's not my strong point here, and Adam Silvera, where do the main characters Arthur and Ben have their first chance meeting? So the book is called What If It's Us. Anyone can jump in. Melissa, I guess
is it at a carnival? I'm trying to think now. Is it like a city you want it? No, we're not that serious on this quiz. I'm not becoming that person in the pub quiz who's really serious. I'm going to say a carnival, but I don't know where I'm getting that from.
Okay, we got carnival from Melissa.
Literally just pick someone random.
Do you think
a bookshop?
Oh, that would have been cute. To be fair,
that would.
No, neither of you are right. It's a post office.
Yeah,
post office. I don't remember.
I don't know why.
Never would have got there. I've read it, but I do not remember.
That was one of those. Yeah, it was one of those you need to have read it books to have guessed the answer to that.
They're meet cute.
That's fine. You're neither of you got. Yeah, they're meet cute is a post office. Okay, and the last one, I think that's 5. What is the title of the novel by John Green and David Levithan, where the 2 eponymous main characters share the same name? So the title has 1 name repeated twice in it.
Oh, God.
I used to love this book.
Oh my God.
I can't remember what it's called.
I'll let our guest start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you guys go first. I'll let you go first.
What's the man's name?
As I reminisce about my John Green childhood, where I used to read a lot of John Green all the time.
I love David Levithan too.
Levithan, thank you. Can't pronounce anything.
James George.
James George.
No, it's not going to be either of their names. I don't wait.
Make it.
Everything you do know.
Make a random guess at a random boy's name is probably as close as you're going to get to the answer. Oh yeah, boy's name. Yeah, that's not. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just go Alex.
Okay.
We know
we've got Alex.
No, we sing that along.
The latest book by John Green, Alex. Melissa, what's your one?
I cannot think. I'm going to say Joe and Joe.
No, I mean, Joe and Alex are not right. It's Will Grayson, Will Grayson.
Of
so
course
I wonder.
It is.
I can't believe that I went through every boy's name and I didn't get one.
Yeah.
I know, you should have got Will, but you're not
I know, that would have been half a point for sure.
We could go downhill, but we had a strong start.
Very good start.
But actually, the results are in, and you guys have won. Honor and Perdita have won the quiz.
Amazing.
Our guests have won.
It's so kind.
You did have a very strong start there with the first two questions.
You crushed me.
Yeah,
You've got to go
amazing.
and
Yeah. No, I'm very impressed. Well done. You can now forever know that you won the Right Mentor podcast quiz, which is a big honour, obviously. Honour.
Do we get a cup? Do we? Yeah.
Oh well,
you get a imaginary cup that can appear in your next
here's
book.
Your imaginary cup.
Some really cheap gold medals, plastic.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you guys. I think that's the end of the podcast. That was a high for you guys at the end. So that's we'll end there in case it goes downhill from
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming.
No, thank you so much. And we've had a lot of fun. It was a great podcast.
Yeah, that was great.
You guys are great as mother and daughter team. And I can, the funny that you've heard in this podcast is definitely in your books. So yeah, everyone go and have a read of their books because they're brilliant and hilarious. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope our listeners got the answers to those quiz questions. And we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.